Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathannitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Bhagavati Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Bhagavati Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Bhagavati Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Bhagavati Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vikakanitam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Bhagavad Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhagavad Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you.
Okay, should I just start?
Yeah. So, 1 minute, Prabhu.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please welcome.
Hare Krishna, Murli Sham Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. We are waiting for devotees to join.
Okay.
I want maybe 2 more
Well, that's
minutes.
Sambandhu Govind Prabhu. Sorry. Hare Krishna.
It is a temple connection. It is 10:30 there, huh? Night 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Sorry for making you to
Koi Bagne. No problem.
disturbing the whole schedule. It is very good.
Vaishnava Seva is more important than anything.
Can you try the screen sharing and see whether it is working?
Screen sharing, sure, 1 second.
You're not.
Oops, 1 second. Yes?
Yeah, okay. Hare Krishna. Let me introduce our dear Vraj Vihari Prabhu to all of you. He came to Krishna conscious much before I was born in 1977, much before many of us know anything about Iskcon. During Prabhupada's time, he came to Iskcon in 1977, and presently he is one of the core member of the strategic planning team, which helps GVC and many other committees to reorganize the whole Iskcon. And he is also heading the Iskcon Resolve, which, and he is a professional mediator, and he works in the main profession is also mediation, and he has got a degree in conflict resolution, master degree, and he was serving in Vrindavan along with his good wife. Now he has moved to US, so he has a lot of very senior association, and it will be very nice we can hear from him, and that too on a very important topic which we all struggle. So I would like to welcome Vraj Vihari Prabhu on behalf of Iskcon Ashmi Giridhari Mandir, and for him to agree to give a class to all of us in the middle of night for him. When the class ends, it will be the middle of night for him. So he has taken all the trouble for us. So let us be very grateful for him, and let us welcome by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Thank you, Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna, and my thanks to Murli Shyam Prabhu and Varda Krishna Prabhu and all the devotees there in Iskcon Bangalore. And thank you very much for giving me some service by inviting me. So this will be a talk. I have a PowerPoint presentation, but I'll try to leave sufficient time for questions and comments. Okay, so you can be thinking about them. And I might even stop the talk in the middle and ask if you have any questions. So be prepared for that, okay? So Hare Krishna. What inspired me to speak on this topic is we have a class. I teach I make a presentation on the Bhakti Vaibhava going through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And when you go through the Srimad Bhagavatam, you see some really strong preaching about renunciation, about the nature of this material world, about the dangers of this world, and the entrapments in householder life and materialistic consciousness. So especially so for all of us, but I was told that a lot of people on the call will be grihastas, householders. How do we? So this is for everyone, but also for specifically for households. How do you deal with all that? So first, let's look at some of those verses. This is a verse that Narada Muni is speaking to King Prachini Barhisat, and he's finished the whole Paranjana allegory pastime, and now he's using a different example to explain the same thing about the dangers of this world. And it's a wonderful verse, very powerful verse, that my dear king, please search out that deer who is engaged in eating grass in a flower garden along with his wife. That deer is very much attached to his business, and he is enjoying the sweet singing of the bumblebees in the garden. So this very idyllic picture, a very beautiful garden. But then just try to understand his position. He is unaware that before him is a tiger, which is accustomed to living at the cost of another's flesh. And behind the deer is a hunter who is threatening to pierce him with sharp arrows. Thus, the deer's death is imminent. And Narada Muni is telling the king that this is the nature of this world. That we may be thinking, oh, everything's nice. I haven't, whatever Prabhupada would say, I have sufficient bank balance. I have a nice situation. Everything's going on okay. I'm still young. But the reality is padam padam yadvi padam natesham, that there's danger at every step. Or as Govinda Das would sing, Kamala Thala Jala, Jivana Talamala, right? That the life is like tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. I live in Washington, D.C. And right now, I used to live in Vrindavan for about 21 years. But here, believe it or not, we have this one garden that is full of lotus flowers. And so you can see the lotus petals have this waxy surface. You put some water on it and it just goes right off. So Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala. And this very well-known verse from the Gita, Jitasya hi dhruvam mrityum dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Right, that for one who has taken his birth, that person is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. And therefore, we should discharge our duty and not lament. So again, whether it's the Gita, whether it's the Bhagavatam, it's reminding us, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam, right? That this world is full of these four unavoidable things, right? Birth, death, disease, and old age. And as you were introducing me, as someone who joined Krishna consciousness before many of you were born, I can say that the old age is not a whole lot of fun. Although in my mind, I still think I'm 19. And when I look in the mirror, it's something very different. So the Shastras there, this is not necessarily directly bhakti, it's gyan, or knowledge, that can help lead us to bhakti if we apply it within the Krishna consciousness. So, this famous changing bodies exhibit, we could all kind of look at where are we on this, in this diorama. But the reality is we're all going from left to right. And the other reality is we start again, samsara davanala, right? And we start again. So wherever we are right now, we will continue. Time marches on, Krishna says, right? Time I am, destroyer of all worlds. And time is such a amazing power of Krishna, because you don't see it day to day. It's imperceptible, but it's just like these little soldiers that are marching on, just, centimeter or millimeter by millimeter, but nothing can stop them. And they're just slowly taking out the duration of our life. And you don't notice it every day. You don't know that now we have been on for 12 minutes, that we're 12 minutes older than we were 12 minutes ago. Only if you see someone who hasn't seen you in 10 years or something like that, and then they see you and see the huge difference. But day to day, it's this imperceptible thing, the time factor, that affects us all. And here's another strong verse. This, this is the Avaduta Brahmana speaking to Maharaj Yadu. Right? He says, after many births and deaths, one achieves a rare human form of life, which, although temporary, affords one the opportunity to attain the highest perfection. Thus, a sober human being should quickly endeavor for the ultimate perfection of life, as long as his body, which is always subject to death, has not fallen down and died. After all, sense gratification is available even in the most abominable species of life, whereas Krishna consciousness is possible only for a human being. So it's important to note that, for example, this verse was Narada speaking to Prachini Barhisat. He was attached to fruitive activities, and he was older. So he had the 10 children, right, the Pachetas, and they were already off for 10,000 years performing their austerities. So it was a time in his life where he should be more renounced. And this is Maharaj Yadu, who, if you recall, his father Yayati had asked him to exchange his youth for his old age. And Yadu said, well, no, I can't do that, because I should do some enjoyment in my youth, so that it'll be much easier to renounce it, to have the realization that that isn't the goal of life, and renounce it when I get older. And this is now in the 11th canto when he is older. And then this famous verse, this is Rishabdev speaking to his 100 sons. Pumsastriya mitini bhava mitam. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. And again, it's good to know the context. Context being, as Prabhupada writes, these instructions were meant for sannyasis who intend to become advanced devotees. Sannyasis must abide by Lord Rishabdev's instructions while on the path of devotional service. Okay, so again, the context of all three of these very strong quotes are, in the sense, speaking to people who are older or who are to be renounced. So it's just something to keep in mind. So what should we learn from these verses? What should we do differently after hearing these words of detachment and knowledge, right? What should we, should it go in one ear and out the other? And we, is that what we should do? Or should we fully embrace them and renounce our family right away? Look for where we can find some saffron dye to change our dhotis? Is that what we should do? Or should we reject them and say, no, this Iskcon is too much. They're always talking about renunciation. I'm going to go to a place that makes me feel better about my materialistic tendencies. So should we fully embrace them? Should we reject them? Or should we try to find a way to apply them practically in our life? And obviously, we're going to suggest the last one, how to, and especially for grihasthas, how to apply them practically in our life. But even brahmacharis can apply them a little differently. And this is such an important verse because the question would come up. Maybe I'll go off sharing screen for a while. The question could come up that how do you renounce material sense gratification, material life, and not become hard-hearted, right? Because if you read some of those verses, you might think, oh, I shouldn't have anything to do with my family. I shouldn't have, I should just renounce everything. Or even if I'm a brahmachari, I can remember I was a brahmachari for 12 years. I used to just do traveling Sankirtan, distributing books in America. And I can remember that we didn't always understand the philosophy perfectly. I think we used to think that the goal of life was to remain brahmachari, rather than the goal of life was to love Krishna. I mean, we could quote, Prema Pumartha Mohan, but really we were like, brahmachari. We used to even have some jokes like, if you want to become free from samsara, you have to become free from samsari. So things like that. Those are some of our brahmachari consciousness, but that sometimes would make the heart hard. So how do you renounce on one hand without making the heart hard? And Rupa Goswami is such a genius. This verse gives the answer. Anashaktasya vishayan yartaham upayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagya uchite. And this is from a purport. Prabhupada says that vishayan, or material affairs, should be accepted without attachment, and everything dovetailed with the service of Krishna. And that's real intelligence. Becoming a family man or a king in the material world is not harmful if one accepts everything for Krishna's service. So if these two words here are so important, Krishna Sambandhe, right? If we see, so we can become detached and still have a soft heart if we give our heart to Krishna. And we see everything as the Krishna Sambandha, the relationship with Krishna. And therefore our children are related to Krishna. Our Our wife or husband is related to Krishna. Our family members are related to Krishna. The beauty that we see in the world is related to Krishna. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everyone sees everything in me, I'm never lost to them, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Or that verse in the Chaitanya Charita, Stavaram Jagaman Deki, that one, a great Maha-Bhagavat doesn't actually exactly see the material world, but sees everything with its Krishna Sambandha. So Rupa Goswami's genius is something that should really inspire us, because sometimes we see sadhus who just, especially of course, the Advaitins, the Mayavadis, who just think that one should be renounced, and not this, the whole Mayavad consciousness. And Prabhupada says that generally they again fall down. Arura Krishna Param Padam Tada. Because they don't have a higher taste. They don't see things. Their heart becomes harder, and that doesn't help. But a soft heart for Krishna, then we become naturally renounced. The beautiful example that Prabhupada gave on a couple of occasions, is if somebody has lost their wallet, right? And so if you come across somebody else's wallet, you have three choices, okay? You can take all the money for yourself, right? And say, that just, hey, Krishna's mercy, I just found this wallet with all this money in it, right? Second, you could just leave it there. Well, that doesn't belong to me. It's not mine. And you just leave it there. Or third, you can pick it up and look at the information in the wallet and try to find its rightful owner and return it to the rightful owner. So the first one, picking up the wallet and keeping for yourself, is kind of compared to karma, right? Doing things for one's own pleasure. And then the second one, just leaving it there is compared to gyan, right? That, nothing's for my enjoyment, nothing belongs to me. Wrong. And the third one is compared to bhakti, where we pick it up and we find its rightful owner. And for a devotee, our consciousness is to try to get away from doing things for our own pleasure and doing things for Krishna's pleasure. Mm-hmm. So it's such a simple example, but it's such a great way to kind of think about things. And so, by the way, I just thought I'd tell you this funny thing that one time. So Guru Kripa Prabhu said to Prabhupada, Sanatana Goswami also depended on Krishna to provide him food. Prabhupada, yes, but for the renounced order of life, the order is you must beg, bhiksha. Not much. If I can subsist on taking one chapati, I'll simply ask for one chapati, not for two chapatis. That is Shastra. If you can live without any chapati, that is very good. But you can ask as much as you require. Not to eat sumptuously and sleep 24 hours, no. So then Burijan Prabhu asked Prabhupada, what about the householders? And then Prabhupada very, very sarcastically said, oh, the householders? They can eat the whole world and sleep. Obviously, Prabhupada wasn't meaning that seriously, but as his householders, he wanted us to have that renunciation, but not that we just prematurely take sannyas or something like that, but like with this wallet, we take everything we have and we offer it with our heart to Krishna. We offer it with our heart to Krishna. I'll look at that verse a little later. So that's kind of the negative part. And now we're going to start talking about, well, what do we do positively to perfect our lives and apply Rupa Goswami's principle of being renounced by being attached to Krishna. But before we do you have what questions or comments? Who's going to ask the first question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, Prabhu.
Just now you have quoted an example, somebody losing the purse. I missed that point number 1, point number 2 relating to the third point is related to bhakti you mentioned. How about point number 1, point number 2? Can you explain if you?
Okay, so the first one is compared to karma, where you just take the wallet and keep it for yourself. So the person who's on the karma platform, especially karma kanda, is just thinking of their own enjoyment. Okay? Then the jnani is thinking, this world is a place of suffering, janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, etc. And so nothing's for my enjoyment. It's a world of Maya, so they just leave the wallet there. But the devotee picks up the wallet and then finds its original owner. And of course, we understand Krishna's, the aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pavartate. He's the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from him. Is that okay, Prabhu? Does that answer your question?
Thanks, Prabhu. Thanks a lot.
TK?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Other questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, you mentioned that everything should be seen with respect to Krishna Sambandha.
Yes.
Now, so maybe some neophyte devotees have meticulously chosen a very beautiful wife and a very wonderful car and a nice house. Now, how do they see that in terms of Krishna Sambandha now?
Well, they not only Krishna Sambandha, but Krishna Das, right? Jivera Swarupahaya Krishna Nityadas. So then we have this nice, whatever we have that Krishna's given us, he's given us an opulent position, then we use it in Krishna service. Just like here in Washington, D.C., we have a number of devotees who are His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj's disciples. And a number of them are doctors, and so they're very well-to-do, right? They have a big house. And when Gopal Krishna Maharaj comes here once, sometimes twice a year, and he does programs at their houses, and he says, okay, if you're going to have this big house, you have to use it in Krishna service. You have to have gatherings. You have to have Maha-Mantra programs. You have to use, this huge basement that can hold like 150 devotees or something. You have to have programs. So, okay, you have a big house, you can have this big house, but use it in Krishna service. So it's seeing the Krishna Sambandha, but also seeing our Krishna Sambandha, right? And what is our Sambandha with Krishna? It's his servant. Things are for his pleasure. So I may have this beautiful wife, but that doesn't mean she's just meant for my enjoyment. No, she's Krishna's, and so let us work together, husband and wife, in serving Krishna. And okay, so we have this big house by Krishna's arrangement. Let me use this as a base for, spreading Krishna consciousness. How does that sound?
Very nice, Prabhu. Thank you.
You have a big house and many beautiful wives?
Many? No,
Just sorry, bad joke. Yeah. But anyway, what I mean is whatever opulence we have, we use in Krishna service. And then we're happy. Otherwise, it's actually, it can cause a lot of anxiety having opulence. Like if one has a fancy car, I always used to laugh when I would go to Delhi, because I was in Vrindavan, it was only 2 hours from Delhi. And you see someone driving like a Ferrari or something like that. And those cars are just useless in Delhi with all the potholes and everything. And there's so much anxiety that you're going to, someone's going to scratch it or something. Material things can be a cause of anxiety, but they lose a lot of that anxiousness when we're using things in Krishna service. Is that all right, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, perfectly right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other comments we have here, let's see, Bhakta Anudeep. You said we relate everything and everyone to Krishna, but in practical sense, how to practice it, Prabhuji? Okay, that's a great question. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes from now in some of the practical ways. Prabhupada used to give the example, even this very exalted consciousness of a Maha-Bhagavat, the verse that I quoted earlier from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Stavaram Jagamam Deki, that one doesn't exactly see material elements, but he sees Krishna. But Prabhupada brought it down to a very simple level. He said, when you see a tree, you can think that, first of all, it's made of earth, water, fire, air, right? Just as the Bhagavad Gita says. And apariyasitas tvanyam prakritim vidime param, that also there's a soul inside that tree who's part and parcel of Krishna. And in this way, you're remembering Krishna as you're looking at that tree. Okay. So that's one thing. And Krishna really tries to impress upon us the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and especially the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where he talks about so many things in this world and how they can remind us of Krishna. And then, of course, as we're going to talk about in a few minutes, doing direct bhakti, panchanga bhakti, hearing and chanting about Krishna. And when we do that, it fills our mind with Krishna consciousness. And then we can remember the philosophy as we go out in the world and have our jobs, or even we go out to sell books, or whatever our particular dharma is at this stage in our life. So those are a few practical things, Anudeep, but by hearing about Krishna, that helps us remember him. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam. And then throughout the day, trying to keep doing things that remind us of Krishna. I have a friend of mine who uses Outlook, the Microsoft program, and he has it at work, and he has a program that every 15 minutes, I'm not saying you have to do this, but every 15 minutes, a little reminder pops up, say a prayer to Krishna. So every 15 minutes, he says like a 20-second prayer to Krishna, and then goes on with his life. So we can use technology in that way, or just the idea that it's so easy now with technology that we can be, shaving or driving, in a train or a bus, or driving in a car to somewhere else, and we can be listening to a lecture, pravachan by Srila Prabhupada or by some of Prabhupada's disciples, or listening to a kirtan, and we can use technology in our service. These things make great servants and terrible masters, right? If we let them take over our life, it can be a real source of Krishna forgetfulness, but we can also use them in Krishna service. Is that all right, Anudeep Prabhu? Yes, he said,
Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Okay. So we'll go on now, and I'll take more questions at the end, but we're talking about a really important topic here. Oops, let me share my screen again. Here we go. And that is, you're familiar probably with this verse, Param Jisva, probably translated as higher taste. It's from the 2nd chapter, verse 59 of the Gita. And oops, is it easy to get a higher taste? Is it easy to have this, what Anudeep was saying, to have this remembrance of Krishna? Well, yes, the process is easy. But having that real sincerity, we have to work on that. Because we should understand, we are constantly seeking enjoyment, constantly. And if we're not getting spiritual enjoyment, we are practically forced to seek material enjoyment. So it's really imperative for us, as in the stage of Krishna consciousness that we're in right now, to really seek spiritual nourishment. It's something to remember. We're enjoyers by nature, rasa vai saha, and if we're not getting spiritual enjoyment, we're going to seek enjoyment. It's just not going to be in spiritual life. So it's really the essential part of making that advancement is regularly having that higher taste in Krishna consciousness. At one time when Prabhupada was asked, well, how do you become sincere? And Srila Prabhupada pointed to his disciples and said, you associate with those who are sincere. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that the root of bhakti is association. And it says that we should associate with our peers and those who are more advanced than us. So let's talk a little bit about things that we all know. Maybe we can go into a little more depth about them. Chanting Hare Krishna, right? We know that it's a yuga dharma. We know what the Shastra says. Kalo doshani de rajan asiheko mahagunam kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha paramajat. That the only panacea in Kali Yuga is to chant. So we really need to always be improving our habits of japa, right? One thing is to not do anything else during our japa. The mind will rebel against that, but really trying to not do anything else, not even think about other services that we have to do today. Sometimes we're kind of saving the world as we're chanting our japa, but just use that time to show Krishna that we're sincere, that we want to connect with him through his holy name. He's given us this chance. And if we're spacing out when we're chanting, it's not so different than if someone brings a wonderful plate of prasadam into the room and you're really hungry, and then they bring out a mirror and they say you can eat it through the reflection in the mirror. Obviously, you're not going to be satisfied, right? And that's often the kind of chanting we're experiencing right now, because we're not taking that time to just, of course, the mind is going to go here and there, and we know that. But if we just focus, as Prabhupada would say, just try to hear yourself chant sincerely. Isn't that a beautiful mantra? Just try to hear yourself chant sincerely. And what is that sincerity? We know what Prabhupada said, that it's like the child crying out for its mother. And if it doesn't have to be that fancy. We just need to hear the holy name, hear the mantra. And after some time, when it may take some effort in the beginning, but it's almost like you're gliding down a river after some time, and you just feel the mantras taking you away. It's quite a powerful experience when we can get absorbed in our japa. So if we can get up early, and if we can chant 16 rounds all at one time, that's ideal. Prabhupada said when he was at Grihastha, sometimes he chanted 4 at a time, and then 4 a little later in the day, 4 a little later in the day, 4 a little later in the day. So if we have to, for service, we may have to adjust, but if we could just save the best time of the day for that sacred time when we are with Krishna. Now, brahmacharis are lucky because they're so fortunate. They have such a regulated schedule, right? They can get up, go to Mangala Arti, then there's Tulsi Puja, and then there's time for them to get their 16 rounds done, generally speaking, before Singar Arti, greeting the deities, Guru Puja, and then Bhagavatam class. And for those of us who live outside the temple, we have to work on being regulated. When I joined in the 70s, this word regulation was like a big deal. We'd always talk about it. You have to be regulated, And I don't hear it as much today in Iskcon. But the idea is that when you're regulated, our mind only has so much determination and so much power. And when we have regulated habits, we don't have to use that part of our determination so much. We get into a groove of doing that. But if we're unregulated and we have to use our mind, think, well, what should I do now? Should I chant? Should I read? Should I take some extra rest? What should I do? That takes up a lot of the energy in our mind that could be used more for determined japa or determined reading, etc. So let's all make sure that we're really putting our sincerity, really putting our heart into this 2 hours that we get to be just alone with Krishna. Because Abhinavam Namanamino, Krishna and his name are the same. And is it easy? Yes, I know your prasadam isn't like this every day at the temple, although this is a picture from Juhu. But we were talking about how to get a higher taste, right? And one way to get a higher taste is make sure we take prasadam. And even that, we should honor prasadam, not just ingest it, right? But try to be in the mode of goodness when we're taking prasadam. Really try to meditate on how this is Krishna's mercy, this is Krishna's blessing. Be so grateful to Krishna that he's giving us this, swaprasada and the dilavai, sayanamritika, right? That he's giving us this nice prasadam to help us control our tongue and really get into prasada seva. That could be a very uplifting experience and a real way to get that higher taste. And Prabhupada, he said his one criticism of his disciples was they think his books are for distribution and not for reading. And then he even imitated a devotee. He did a little role play, and he said, "My dear sir, take this book." And then Prabhupada imitated the non-devotee. So what's it about? And then he imitated the devotee who said, "I'm not sure what it's about. I just distribute it. I don't read it." So Prabhupada performed such austerities, getting up in the middle of the night to write his books every day, even with jet lag or wherever he was in the world. And so it's just the right thing to do, to reciprocate with his austerities by taking the time to hear the Bhagavatam. There's different ways to do it. Vaisheshika Prabhu encourages this be a sage page by page, and there's an app, right, that you can download for free. And if you want to read the whole Bhagavatam in 1 year, it's 41 pages a day. And if 2 years, then it's half that. Or, if that works for you, great. If you already have a good system, but somehow or other, we should be reading Prabhupada's books regularly. And it's amazing how it just uplifts our consciousness. It puts us on the world looks different when you put on the glasses of Shastra Chakshus, and especially through the lips, through the Bhaktivedanta purports. So that's another great way to get a higher taste. So we have the chanting enthusiastically, slowing down to honor prasadam properly, reading, hearing regularly. And as for grihastas, this is Gauravani Prabhu, having kirtan with our family. That's his son's name is Kirtan. He's much bigger than that now. It's an old picture. And if we're at home, then having a nice altar. We may have deities, we may have a picture like this picture here, and offering everything that is cooked in the home to Krishna, and focusing our home on Krishna's pleasure. And if we do these things with enthusiasm, utsahan, nishchaya, dharyat, we do them with enthusiasm, patience, and confidence, we'll have this higher taste. And material life just won't make any sense to me. I used to like to tell the story when I first moved to India. It was 1989. I first moved to Vrindavan, and in those days, I guess we would travel. Sometimes we would travel third class, right? Just unreserved. You just get on the train. Or sometimes, I guess I would go second class, second class, 3-tier. And I noticed that. So when I would go on the trains, and I would go to Mayapur, I'd go to Mumbai or whatever, people were usually speaking in Hindi, and in those days I didn't understand any Hindi. So I did, they were talking, whatever they were talking, maybe Gramya Kata, I don't know what they were talking about, because it was just like, it didn't make any sense to me. So I was thinking that when we're absorbed in Krishna consciousness, material activities, they're like Hindi was to me. They just don't make any sense, right? You think, why would anyone want to do that? Krishna consciousness is so wonderful. And when we're not getting the higher taste, then those same material activities seem very attractive. Oh, very nice. You see, you start developing a little envy for non-devotees who may have something that we don't have, or maybe can do things that we can't do. So it's such an imperative thing in our development of our devotional practices to get this higher taste. Now, of course, ultimately the higher taste is up to Krishna, but we do our part. Man proposes, God disposes. And if we do our part of being absorbed in chanting, absorbed in hearing, we'll make rapid advancement and make our way back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Okay, so some questions, comments. Let's see, what do we have here? Suresh Kumar says, how to always get attracted to Maha-Mantra, because sometimes we will chant artificially. I'm not artificially, or maybe we sometimes chant without much taste. But if we show Krishna that whether he gives us a taste or not, we're going to try to chant and just hear Krishna's name, he will reciprocate with us. He wants to. Krishna is in our heart. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati. He's in our heart, and he wants to reciprocate with us. And when he sees, it's just like a child learning to walk, and sometimes we stumble, but the parent looks on with such loving eyes. So Krishna wants us to have a taste for the holy name. So if there are some dry spells when we're not so attracted, become more determined. Pray to spiritual master, pray to Srila Prabhupada, pray to Lord Nityananda, pray to Nam Prabhu. Show our sincerity, and Krishna will give us a taste. And also maybe engage some more in kirtan. If japa's a little, do some kirtan to get that taste for Krishna's name. But that is the if we show Krishna's we're sincere, it's a relationship, and Krishna's a person, and the holy name is a person. And so Abhinatvam Nama Namino, Krishna and his name are the same. So we're so lucky. Another thing we can do is practice gratefulness. We wake up in the morning and we think of one or two things that we're grateful for. We go to sleep at night and we think of one or two things that we're grateful for. One of the best ways to get out of material consciousness is to just think, what are some things that I'm grateful for? And if usually, of course, I will turn something to Krishna or our spiritual master or the devotee who introduced us to Krishna consciousness, or the fact that we can take prasadam or whatever it is. And Krishna will be very pleased to see that we're grateful. He's very attracted to a grateful soul. Is that okay, Suresh Kumar Prabhu? So then, Kalyan and Pallavi ask how to spread Prabhupada's movement in especially rural parts of India. Please share one of your best experiences in your journey. In the pandemic situation, how to distribute Harinam and books. Well, I don't have a lot of experience preaching in villages. What I was doing in India was kind of fun. I was teaching in Vrindavan, and somehow I got connected to the legal system. And I was training high court judges and Supreme Court judges in conflict resolution, and traveling around the country doing that. So it really was different than village preaching. You might have to ask someone like, well, His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj does a lot of tribal preaching, which is really amazing, right? He's not just in the villages, but in the tribal. And I'm sure there's other devotees in the Bangalore Yatra who know about that, but not me. And how to distribute books during the pandemic? Well, one thing devotees are doing is online preaching, right? And distributing books like that, and distributing sets of books. But I'm sure, again, there's so many expert book distributors and preachers in Iskcon India, in Iskcon Bangalore, and other parts, that they would answer that a lot better than I am. But I do know that we're having some success already with selling sets of books. We've already started the Bhadra campaign for this year, and having people just contact people that they know by phone or by email or WhatsApp, and just talking to them and having a conversation, and then saying, hey, we have these wonderful books. So Sadanand Keshava Prabhu, how to understand the soul searching for enjoyments versus the body searching for enjoyments. Well, these soul searching for enjoyment, it manifests when it's material consciousness. It manifests through the senses and the mind, right? Manasastan Indriyani Prakriti Stani Karshati, right? So our searching for enjoyment in the material consciousness is through the senses. But of course, also in Krishna consciousness, right? Rishikena, Sevanam Bhakti Uchate, that we use our senses, but we connect them with the soul, because the soul is Krishna's servant, right? We said that Jivera Surupahaya Krishna Nityadas. So when we use our senses in connection with who we really are, we use our eyes to see Krishna, our nose to smell the tulsi or the incense, right? Our intelligence to find ways to spread Krishna consciousness, etc. Our tongue to taste the prasadam and to chant Hare Krishna. Our ears to hear the holy name in the Bhagavatam. So the soul uses the body to express its desires. So we have to make sure our desires are spiritual. Is that all right, Sadanand Keshava Prabhu?
Haribol, Prabhu.
That was a Haribol yes or Haribol no?
Yes, Prabhu.
Acha, TK. How to get a taste for reading Prabhupada's books. Sometimes we feel sleepy. Yes, Suresh Ji. This is true. So, a few things. There's a lot of ways to answer that, right? But one way is to try to find the best time of the day. Sometimes we save reading for the worst time of the day, like the last, before we go to sleep. And we've already, exhausted ourselves. We've been on a train for an hour and big crushed, I've been on some, whatever, or we've been sitting in traffic, or, we had to work, or, even as a brahmachari, we got up at 3:30 in the morning, and so sometimes we save our worst times for reading. So sometimes we might want to plan our life so it's our best time. That's one thing. And we also might start slowly. Okay, so we might not read 41 pages a day in the beginning, or an hour. What about 15 minutes? Can you spare 15 minutes? And then gradually 20 minutes, then gradually 25. And as the taste increases, but again, show Krishna that we're sincere, and he reciprocates. Another thing to do is do it in the sangha of other devotees. Read out loud with other devotees. Keshava Bharati Maharaj has been doing that for years now. And you could probably find out how he does it online. I think he's in America. You'd have to see how it works from the time between India and America. But find a reading, make a reading group with your family maybe, or with other Prabhus or Matajis. And that's an easy thing to do. And then read something and share your realizations and read a little bit more. Prabhupada said we can examine his purports threadbare from different angles of vision. So we can do that. But the sleepiness, okay, so when you're reading and you're falling asleep, that's the emotive ignorance, right? And have you ever read something like a page or two, and after reading it, you can't remember anything you read? Ever had that happen? That's the mode of passion, because the mind is elsewhere. Even though we're actually reading the words, our mind is elsewhere. And of course, goodness is to, maybe sometimes it's good to do it just after you've taken a bath and you're in fresh clothing and fresh tilak and just understand that like what the Sikhs had, the Guru Granth, right? The book is so worshipable. They have a whole Vyasasan for whoever's reading the Guru Granth. So for us, Prabhupada's books are worshipable. One time on traveling Sankirtan, devotees wrote to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, is it okay if we get Gaur Nitai deities for our traveling Sankirtan van? And Prabhupada said, yes, you can do that, but don't you have my books? Aren't you distributing books? You could just put those on an altar and worship them, right? So having this, and also maybe listening to devotees explain who are advanced devotees. Like for today I was listening to a class by Radhika Raman Prabhu, and he's so clear-headed and he's such a great soul, even though he's still relatively young in age. And it was so inspiring hearing an advanced devotee explain things. So that's another way. Is that okay, Anu Nehra? Okay, the next one is from Bir Prabhakar Nandini. When we chant all the times Hare Krishna, Krishna hears immediately, or once we reach to perfect stage? Now, Krishna, he appreciates the struggle of the neophyte devotee, the beginner devotee. He appreciates the intermediate devotee. He appreciates the advanced, of course, he appreciates the advanced devotee. But he, again, it's like if you can imagine a parent watching a child learning to walk, right? So the parent doesn't say, "Oh, you nonsense! You can't walk yet. What kind of Maya are you in?" Right? Krishna hears our sincerity. One time, Prabhupada was asked about other philosophers, and he said, "Are they devotees? Are they advanced? Are they advanced? And are they Krishna? No, are they Krishna conscious? Are they Krishna conscious?" And Prabhupada said, their sincerity is their Krishna consciousness. So if we're chanting sincerely, even our mind is sometimes going here and there, that's natural, but we're trying to bring it back to just hear the mantra. Krishna definitely sees that. He definitely hears that. I hope that's okay. And then Ayushi Saraswat asks, how to motivate us towards Hare Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we get distracted towards materialistic life. Well, there's so many answers to that, but the best way is to associate with devotees. And of course, in this time of lockdown and pandemic, it might be a lot by Zoom, or it might be hearing Prabhupada's lectures. They're all available online, thousands of hours of them, or other Iskcon devotees' lectures, and reading his books. That will gradually, it's not going to happen overnight, but slowly, it's just like if you have a glass filled with ink, black ink, and you add milk to it. It slowly, as you keep on adding the milk, it goes from black to dark gray to light gray, but eventually it starts looking milk-like. So similarly, dire, slowly, we get more of attraction for Krishna. But a lot of it is by association, because you associate with a sincere devotee and you say, oh, maybe one day I can be like him, or maybe one day I could be like her. I hope that's okay. Ayushi Saraswat?
Yes, G Prabhuji.
Okay, all right. Thank you. How important in devotee care that we take care of their material needs, material anxiety. It's important. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that until you reach the level of bhava, you have 4 concerns. Of course, spiritual advancement, but also that you have spiritual needs, social needs, emotional needs, and physical needs. And even Prabhupada, when he would sign his letters, he would usually say, I hope this meets you in good health. So he was concerned even about our health, and also our mental health, and that we have. Prabhupada says that devotees we're social animals, and if we don't associate with devotees, then we'll associate with non-devotees. So we should associate and find ways. I know it's hard in a pandemic, and there's devotees that are locked up in a small house someplace or small apartment, and we should take care of each other. You know, sometimes it might mean, if we can, leaving some prasadam at their doorstep if we can't associate with them directly, but somehow people should feel that when they come to Iskcon, they're coming to an organization of individuals that really care for each other. And Prabhupada didn't call this the International Organization for Krishna Consciousness. He called it the International Society. And as society, we take care of each other. Sometimes people say Iskcon is like a family. I like to think of it more like we're like a village. And in a village, a good village, people will take care of others who have fallen on hard times or having some challenges. So sometimes the way to serve them is to just listen to them, just hear them, and they may sometimes have to reveal their mind to us. Prabhupada talks about this in a letter to Balavanta Prabhu in 1972. He gives the example of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his talks with Lord Chaitanya, and how Lord Chaitanya listened to him for 7 days without saying anything. No, not that we have to listen to anyone for 7 days, but sometimes a Vaishnava Seva is just to listen to someone and let them express some of the challenges that they're going through, and then helping them with solutions. So we, of course, want to take care of people's spiritual needs. That's the USP, the unique selling point, you could say, of Iskcon. But one thing that helps keep devotees and keeps them inspired is that we have a society that we take care of one another. Is that all right, Ranjnikant Reddy?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhu. That was Pranam.
Yeah. Now, our time is getting up, but should I keep going? Or I'm happy to, but I didn't know if I'm taking up your time. But there's a question from Varda Krishna Prabhu, so we have to answer that. He's the boss. But should we continue a while? Does anyone want to tell me what I should do?
Up to 9:30, you can answer the questions. Normally, we do it like that. 9 to
TK?
9:30.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. All right, so the next one is from Anudeep. As we see in Bhagavad Gita, that the topmost yogi will always practice to remember Krishna form in his heart. But when it comes to our chanting, we have to focus on hearing Krishna's name. Please clarify this. Yes. So, well, Krishna says Mamana in the Bhagavad Gita. Well, he also says Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yatantascha Drivrata. That he says that my devotees are always hearing and chanting. Satatam Kirtan, always having kirtan about Krishna. So that is the way to remember Krishna in this. And that verse that you're quoting, verse 6, chapter 6, verse 47, is a prelude. The whole chapter has been about Ashtanga Yoga or Hatha Yoga. And then Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham madhyaten antaratmana. But then how to always think of Krishna in our heart, the next 6 chapters describe that. And well, all of them, but especially in the 9th chapter, where Krishna says to always engage your mind in thinking of me. And in this age, Lord Chaitanya has given us the simplest way to think of him, and that is to chant. So chanting and thinking of Krishna, chanting helps us. It is, in one sense, remembrance of Krishna, although there is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. So the way to have Krishna Smaranam is to do Shravanam Kirtanam, to hear and chant about Krishna. So that let's not forget that is the Yuga Dharma. And it is the gift that Lord Chaitanya so kindly came to give us. So there's no contradiction between the Bhagavad Gita, always think of me, and Lord Chaitanya, always chant Krishna's name. It is the perfection, especially in Kali Yuga, but in all yugas, really. The chanting is the main anga of bhakti. Is that all right, Anudeep?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Okay, now from Varda Krishna Prabhu. how do we improve our intensity and focus on the quality of devotional service? Now that's an intense question. There's different ways. I think the best, I find for me, the best way is getting the association of devotees who are focused. I think Krishna consciousness is caught as much as it's taught, if that makes any sense. Right? We see the example, and we get inspired. I've seen that with I won't mention names, but with certain devotees who chant their japa very with real focus, and just being in their association helps me think, well, I would like to chant like they chant. So that is one thing. There's other ways. Also, Krishna sometimes gives us a little bit of a kick and a reminder of how the material world is indeed dukkhalayam, not a place of happiness, and that sometimes it encourages us to take more shelter of Krishna. Sometimes we hear things that inspire us in Krishna consciousness. Maybe it's a lecture, maybe it's a book that we've been reading, and like I'll read you this. This is something that I read in His Holiness Sachinandan Maharaj's book, and it's something that I was speaking about because it inspired me. He said, each of us is also bound by an iron chain in our minds. It is covered with the rust of impressions and desires hardened by many lifetimes. We cannot see it with these eyes, though you know its presence by behaviors stemming from your conditioned nature. The chain keeps us under indenture, that means like a slave. We are tightly tied to our present condition, to our present identity, and to the material world. Every time we feel impelled to advance spiritually, it tugs at us, doing its best to halt our progress. Can we get free from this chain? It's virtually impossible. The chain is far stronger than any actual iron chain. We can escape a physical chain if we crack it with a heavy metal, but in this world, there are no heavy metals to destroy the chain in our mind. But there is hope. Krishna lives in the inner mind, which is called the chitta in Sanskrit, and in the subconsciousness by modern psychiatrists. As the deity of the chitta, Krishna is known as Chitta Hari, because he is the enchanter of the inner mind. He can easily break the chain and free us from the clutches of past conditioning if we seriously turn to him. So I also find that when we hear inspiring things, something that Prabhupada has written or his devotees have written, that improves our intensity. And also just Bharata Krishna Prabhu, also, the whole process, Ado Shadha Tata Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya Narta Nivriti, Nishta Ruchi Ashakti Bhava Prema, it's kind of all of that is a focusing as we make that spiritual advancement. And even going from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, Raganuga is more focused on a particular kind of pleasure that we want to give to Krishna. So I hope that's okay, Varda Krishna Prabhu, but I should be asking you that question because you're a lot more focused and intense than I am.
Prabhu, with your permission, can I ask a supplementary question?
Of course.
So, yeah, I mean, you came to the verse that I wanted to talk about, the verse which defines stages or levels of bhakti. So we spoke about anartha nivritti and vachana kriya anartha nivritti, nishta, ruchi, etc. But while theoretically speaking, these appear to be very clearly defined stages or milestones. I mean, after some time, that's really my problem too. After some time, you tend to get confused that you've been around for quite a while now. Your hair has turned gray, but have you really made any progress? Are you any better devotee than you were many, many years back? All I know is these 30 years or something have just kind of gone away without me being even conscious of that. That's another thing about being a devotee. Time flies. You just you're so busy doing different things in the course of the day, and we tend to work 365 days, 7 days a week. So we never get time to sit down and introspect. All I know is in one fleeting, whatever, these years have gone away, but I can't say for sure if I'm at the same place, I've moved ahead, I've moved backward. So how do I actually know where I stand today?
Well, that's a big question. I was just reading, let me see if I can find it really quickly, in the 5th canto, chapter 16. I think it was verse 3. Prabhupada writes, I did find it. This is Canto 5, chapter 16, verse 3. This is the beginning of the description of Jambudvip. And Prabhupada writes, in our preaching work, also we deal with so much property and money and so many books bought and sold. But because these dealings all pertain to the Krishna consciousness movement, they should never be considered material. That one is absorbed in thoughts of such management does not mean that he is outside of Krishna consciousness. If one rigidly observes the regulated principles of chanting 16 rounds of the Maha-Mantra every day, his dealings with the material world for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness is not different from the spiritual cultivation of Krishna consciousness. So that can give us a little solace. And at the same time, Varada Krishna Prabhu, done in a reasonable way, we as more senior people getting older, I also have very gray hair, we're gonna die and we should make some real, we should be working on our bhajan. And again, not that we become bhajan and nandis, I'm not suggesting that at all, but we should find time to take for hearing and chanting. If you think about our tradition, right? What did the sannyasis do in bygone days? They had the Chaturmasya, right? They took 4 months off of their preaching to hear and chant. And we have Kartik, we have Purushottam Mas, we have Ekadasi. There's so many things in the Gaudiya culture for taking that break to focus more inwardly. And I don't know, I don't think I told you this, Radha Krishna Prabhu, or I didn't tell Murali Sham this, but my hope is, my prayer is that I will move back to India in about a year, because we're building on an Iskcon property at Govardhan, a retreat center. It's 20 meters from Govardhan Hill. I mean, it's right, you can see it from the property. It's a beautiful, I don't know if you or Murali Sham have seen it yet, but the construction stopped because of the pandemic. But otherwise, and what we want to do is have a place where devotees can come and really absorb themselves in hearing and chanting. In the back of the property, we have 6 bhajan kutirs. And no one's allowed to bring their phone into the bhajan kutirs. No phones, no computers, just chanting and hearing. So for devotees in our stage of life, I know there's a lot of devotees on the call that are younger, it is imperative that we find some time and also set that example for the younger devotees also, that as we age, we do need to make sure we are deepening our chanting, deepening our kirtan without stopping our preaching and our other services. Does that make any sense, Radha Krishna Prabhu?
Yeah, yes, Prabhu. I think you gave some profound words you spoke, and definitely you have given me some food for thought, some ideas that I can contemplate on and probably pursue. So I'm grateful to you, Prabhu, and I wanted to also take this opportunity to profusely thank you for all the decades of sincere, very, very dedicated, focused, determined service that you've been offering to this society at the highest level. I've seen you in action. I've never had the good fortune of interacting with you more closely, but I've seen you in action. I've attended a couple of those training programs that you conduct. And I also am very grateful to you about the way you're handling one very sensitive issue among this society. As we grow in numbers, we see that conflicts and differences of opinion keep surfacing. And your efforts to bring in the best of Vaishnava culture, Vaishnava practices, and also probably refine it with some advancements in the modern world about how to handle arbitration and resolving conflicts. So that has probably helped the society, the leaders of the society, become more mature and deal with conflicts and difference of opinion in a very graceful Vaishnava way. That is an incredible contribution of yours to this society. So every time your name has become kind of synonymous with the conflict resolution, resolve, arbitration in this movement. And in different forums that I attend, they keep referring to you and also your ideas about how Iskcon should resolve, the idea of having ombudsmen. So I think you've in a very unique way, you have contributed to the maturing of this society from what it was to where we want to go. Bring in the best elements of Vaishnava culture, Sadachar, and this whole thing about loving relationship, and also handling the reality that there will be differences, conflicts, and disputes. So I'm very grateful to you, Prabhu, and I also want to very gratefully acknowledge your contributions in running the VIHE and the education wing of Iskcon. On this occasion, I would like to offer my most sincere prayers along with all the devotees and leaders here to Sri Gandharvika Giridhari, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our beloved deities here, and to Sri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, and to the Guru Parampara, that you should be blessed and you should be rewarded adequately, spiritually and even otherwise, so you can carry on with this service for many, many years to come. And I hope someday, I don't know how, when, you will come down here and we'll spend more time with you. So I
would love to come down there, Prabhu. Thank you. Your words are, you're very kind. Thank you, Prabhu. But I am, yes, I'm at your service. There's only one thing worse than having conflicts in an organization, and that is having no conflicts. Because if there was no conflicts, that would mean nobody cares anymore, and they're just apathy. So having conflicts is natural in any organization, but the key to one key to a mature organization is how they deal with the conflicts. Having them is natural, but dealing with them, especially Kali Yuga, right? It's like when people, I sometimes joke when I say that, conflict resolution in Kali Yuga is a growth industry. I'll never be out of a job. But I do hope to return to India soon and be with everyone in association. Thank you, Bharata Krishna Prabhu, for engaging me in some service.
There are two more important questions.
Okay, Murali Shamji, what are the questions?
One is by
the next one by Venu Dari.
He is in charge of K.R.Puram Center. And another is by Narahari Chaitanya Prabhu, who is a president in another temple in Bangalore.
Okay, then we will read those because we only have 12 minutes, right? How can we reconcile between simple living and anukliyasha sankalpa and pratikliyasha varjanam? So that, for those who aren't familiar with that verse, it means accepting things that are favorable and rejecting things that are unfavorable. So that would mean that to some extent, it depends on desha kalapata, right? On time, place, and circumstance. So simple living, it depends on the person. You can, like Prabhupada once said, right, about Mayapur, he said, someone may ask, why are we building this big temple in Mayapur? And he said, if there was a newspaper article that said Bhaktivedanta Swami is sitting under a tree in Mayapur giving classes, no one would come. But we had this big, big temple, and then so many people come. So And we also know from his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, that if we have a fancy temple, but we use it for our own enjoyment, and we fight over who's going to get the better room and things like that, then he said, better we didn't have this temple at all, right? So, so we can, and you can't say, right, who was more advanced? Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who seemed externally to be very well-to-do and very opulent, or Sudama Vipra, who seemed to have nothing, right? So a lot of it is more about what's favorable for remembering Krishna and unfavorable unfavorable for forgetting Krishna. Smartavya satatam Vishnu vi smartavya jatuchit sarva vidi nished hashur etayore vikinkram. That always remembering Krishna and never forgetting him, that's the goal. And then the other do's and don'ts, simple living, high living, whatever, is they're kinkaras, they're servants to that principle. So yes, we try to live a simple life. We try to, but for example, we may have a computer. So that's not such a simple life. But if we're using it to broadcast Krishna consciousness, then it would be Maya to reject it, right? That's the whole point of that verse, Anukliyasya Sankalpa, that we quoted before. So we do want to live simply, and we want to also be simple-hearted. You know, just even if we live amongst 500 computers and 3 cell phones, 3 mobile phones and this and that, we keep a simple heart that I'm just trying to serve Guru, I'm just trying to serve Krishna, just trying to serve Prabhupada's mission. So if it's Krishna's arrangement that we live at one of the Iskcon farm communities and live very simply, then that's great. But that's better than someone who's living in the middle of Bangalore and fighting traffic and all these other things in order to, preach to important people or to distribute books. So it really is, like you said, Anukliyasya Sankalpa, to have the intelligence to accept things favorable. And sometimes it's hard to know the difference. And then we should take shelter of other Vaishnavas and have a discussion with them about what is favorable and what is unfavorable. Because sometimes something can look favorable, but it's not necessarily so. And I think if we're really honest with ourselves, we can make that distinction. Is that all right, Venudari Prabhu? Venudari Govinda?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Yeah? Okay, yes. Then from Narahari Chaitanya Prabhu. When should we commit ourselves to Iskcon as a congregational devotee? Yesterday. Prabhupada writes in the Gita, is it in the Gita or the first canto of the Bhagavatam, that he says we should join Krishna consciousness from an early age, or at the time we understand its urgency, right? So when we actually understand how fortunate we are, how grateful we are to come in contact with this great teaching, then we should take it up wholeheartedly. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean, renouncing, wanting to put on saffron and giving up your kids and your job and your, we didn't read this verse, but I should have. Famous verse by Lord Brahma. Oops. Sorry. Gyanaprayasam. Okay, let me find it. It's such an important verse to answer this question. Okay, and then do that. Lord Brahma says that, and Lord Chaitanya preached this verse, that those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of gyan, or mayavad, speculative knowledge, and with their body, words, and mind offer all respects to the descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally, and by your pure devotees, they certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So, Shruti Gatam, lending our ear to Krishna, and taking the time to hear and chant about Krishna. So we should take that to heart. So we should take up Krishna consciousness as soon as we can. That might be gradual. You might start with 2 rounds and then 4, 8, 16 eventually, or whatever. That's in consultation with devotees who can guide us. But if we're really lucky and we see this is amazing, I can't believe it. I am so fortunate. I've come in touch with this way to get out of the material world, to stop the wheel of samsara, to be happy even in this life. What to speak of all the spiritual benefits to live an anxiety-free life now. Let me take it up. What do you think, Narahari Chaitanya Prabhu?
Thank you very much. You hit the bullseye.
Yeah, you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
So when are you going to take it up 100%?
I'm in the process. I'm in the process.
Okay, well, when you do, let me know, so I'll follow in your footsteps.
No, I'm following your footsteps.
Thank you for that question.
We will be shortly meeting you because you are the ombudsman trainer.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
So we're going to start that soon, I think. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much.
How do you read Prabhupada's books from different angles? It's usually by associating with devotees. You read a purport and you say, well, this is my understanding of Prabhupada. And someone says, yes, but you didn't, what about this sentence here? And you think about it from different points of view. For example, I don't know, let's just take a verse, that verse that we just read. So you could be looking, well, let's just, since you asked that question, how can you look at it from different points of view? Let's look at this verse. So there's so many things just in this one verse, right? Here, that first line, stanaistita, stay in your position. So Lord Brahma is saying, and Lord Chaitanya was saying, don't be a crazy man, a foolish person, just falsely taking up renunciation. You can stay in your family, you can stay with your home, but hear and chant about Krishna. So someone will say, well, that is really inspiring to me that Lord Chaitanya, that Brahma and Lord Chaitanya are saying, just stay in your social position. And then someone else is saying, oh, this is amazing. Krishna is unconquerable, but he can be conquered. So how do you have that? You could have a whole discussion about how can Krishna be unconquerable and be conquered at the same time, right? You could have a 2-hour discussion about that if you wanted to. And let's see, so throwing away speculative knowledge, what does that mean? And you could have a whole discussion about the difference between Gyan and Bhakti, right? And then what does it mean to offer respects to the descriptions of your personality and activities? What is it? That practically means offering respects to the Bhagavatam, right? And offering respects to Narada Muni. Prabhupada once said in the first canto, we're so grateful to Narada Muni for kindly appearing on these pages of the Bhagavatam. So you see how this one verse we could talk about for hours, right?
Yeah.
So that's an example.
What do you think? You just cooperating with Srila Prabhupada's instructions and try to follow. Is that possible that Krishna is pleased?
Absolutely. Prabhupada gave the example, if you're walking on, Juhu Beach, I don't know, probably some of you have been there, and even in Prabhupada's time, very wealthy people would walk on the beach there. So one day he told his disciples, so you see that man, the man with his young son, he said, how can you please that man? He probably has a big bungalow, he probably has a Mercedes Benz or whatever. But if you take a 1 rupee, or in those days, a 20 paisa sweet, and you give it to his son, and his son smiles and is very happy, then you've satisfied the man. So similarly, the easiest way to please Krishna is to please his devotees.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think our time is up.
Yeah.
But it is so nice to have your association. So nice to be with
So
you.
can I invite you also for one of the programs when you're free? I am from the branch president of another temple. I'll ask Murli Sham to organize. Is it okay with you?
Murli Sham is my my boss.
Yeah.
So I do whatever he tells me to do.
So I will follow him.
Yes.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So thank you very much for inviting me, Prabhus.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Vraj Vihari Prabhu. We're very grateful to you. And we really look forward to having you again with us and maybe having you with us here physically too. Not just
Anytime you ask me, I'm happy to do this. This is, for me, this is recreation. This is fun.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Yeah.